when we talk about booking appointments on your calendar, realize that as coaches, the more people you speak to, the more people that the more clients that you're going to be able to help. And even if they don't come in your program today, that doesn't mean that they're not going to come in 6 months from now or 3 months from now. Make sense? And just because they don't come in today, or if they ever even come in, that doesn't mean you're not living your purpose. Because at the end of the day, even if you just got on a call and all you did was ask them questions that they never thought about, almost on a daily basis, I get people that say, wow, I never thought about these questions before. Nobody ever asked me these questions before. Even if they was on the phone with other coaches, the type of questions that we ask, they're not being asked that. And the type of depth that we go into and not letting people give you surface answers and all the kind of things we ask on calls, I promise you other people are not doing that. Right? So that's a skill that I developed. But at the end of the day, before I wasn't booking appointments, and now my calendar is packed. And if your calendar is not packed based on your schedule, again, I'm full time. Right? So a lot of us, we still work on 9 to 5, right? So your schedule should look packed based on your availability. You know what I mean? So if your availability is 2 hours after work, well, damn, pack up those 2 hours. Right? Pack those 2 hours, right? Like, pack those 2 hours, okay? So make sure we're doing that. So, so that's number 2. What you said, Marcy? Marcy said, I'm actually revamping my clarity session to reduce it to 15 minutes to secure more appointments during the day. Boom. There you go. There you go. Now, it allows you to qualify faster, which is actually one of the things we're talking about in the certification, is that you could do 1 hour long sessions, or you can actually pull out the qualification sessions and do them separately, and then do the actual presentation separate. So that means that you can actually do more. Appointments, so you can qualify people faster, and then if people actually make it over to the strategy sessions, your conversions increase, because you're only going to spend an hour, 30 minutes to an hour talking to people who, and I spend about 45 minutes. You're only going to spend basically between 30 minutes and an hour talking. If you are not constantly reevaluating the mistakes that you're making, you will continue to make the same mistakes, have the same problems over and over year after year. You're going to be frustrated. Why isn't this working for me? Yo, Coach T, why can't I get any clients? Why can't I attract any attention? Why can't I've been trying to figure out for the last few years how to put together a curriculum and a program and get leads, and I hear it all over and over and over again. And the reason I can say that is because I've been in a place where I've been trying to figure out, well, how do I actually build this business? What do I really need to do? And have I really been learning from my mistakes? Because I met a lady a few months ago who's been literally doing this business for 20 years. And she was making the same mistakes every single year. She was like, Coach, I'm trying to make my first $5,000 a month. And after 20 years, I didn't even know this was in existence 20 years ago. And she's still trying to make her first $5,000. And that's not a comparison, but it goes to show, just because you're in this for a long time doesn't mean you've been making progress and building this for a long time. So that is the key. I'm just gonna rattle off some of my top mistakes. If you hit any bars or insights, drop it below. If you have any questions, drop it below. And then I'm gonna offer you a resource to be able to give you help with your business. And then we'll go into some Q&A for a few minutes. All right. So that's what we focused on today. Now, just some of the things that I'm gonna tell you why this is important. Over the years, I realized I've been in this business and in this industry for the last 8 years. What I've learned is that if you're not very meticulous and intentional about overcoming the mistakes that you've been making in the past, you will be either in the same spot, or more than likely your results will get worse. And I can say that because I've been in places where I thought I can just do the same activities over and over and over, and I would get the same result. I would tend to get the same result, or I would just be doing things that I thought was correct, but it wasn't necessarily best business practice. And I found it hard for me to. It took me 2 years, regardless of what business you're in. I'm in coaching, right? Some of us are in coaching, but for me, it took it took me 2 years to get my first client. So I've been doing this officially calling myself a coach for like the last 7 years. In the first 2 years, I struggled a lot. And the reason why I struggled is because I was the free king. Like I come to the front of the congregation and say, listen, this is me, right? To where I was the podcast. I would look at every podcast, every YouTube video, read every article. I would read and learn. I love learning. I'm a learner at heart, right? So I would love learning everything. And I realized that I wasn't making the type of, I felt like I was learning stuff, but I wasn't really making the type of progress that I wanted to make. And it took me just so long to get a client. And I remember one of the significant things that happened for me was, and you might even know this, Denise, I said this story before, but I was doing this webinar, right? And from a webinar, and so I'm like, all right, I got this webinar, and this is around the time when, Beyonce's On the Run tour was happening or whatever. So I got one of Beyonce's tickets, and I'm like, all right, cool. Let me go. Like, this is my idea of marketing at the time, right? This is pre Coach T, 6-figure business, pre 1.1 million people impacted online, pre courses, pre boot camps, pre certification programs. This is pre everything, right? So for me, my idea of marketing was, let me take this one ticket and I'm gonna post it on social media, and everybody's gonna respond and run to this and sign up for this webinar. So the webinar comes, and 5 minutes pass, nobody's there. 10 minutes pass, nobody. 15 minutes, and I'm going through it at this point. So I see my wife, she's looking over my shoulder like what's happening? Anybody's joining, right? It was my girlfriend at the time. So this one lady strolls on, and I'm like, well, I guess I gotta do it now. Like, somebody's on now, right? So so I tell my wife, I like you. Can you join the call? Because the way that we had it set up, you couldn't know who else was on the call. So she didn't really. So the person that came on didn't really know how many other people was on. So I was like, can you join the call? Like, just so like she can hear like another voice outside of mine. So I deliver the presentation, right? She's engaged. She's answering questions. She's learning. Oh my God, this is valuable. It gets to the end of the webinar. I say, we're gonna have one lucky winner. Who is going to be, right? Basically fronting because there's nobody else who could win the ticket. So long story short, I say a name. I think her name was like Tawana. And I said, you are the winner. She goes, oh my God. Like, she's like explodes with excitement, right? And it was in that moment that I realized that it wasn't the value that I can give to the world that like people valued it. So I realized, okay, it wasn't me. Like, because sometimes we go through that when we first start in businesses, and it's like, well, can I really do this? Do I have anything to give to the world? Are they going to really want my product or service? But it was in that moment that really validated it for me that, people really value and want what I have. So it was that triggered me to, all right, let me get a coach and figure this out. Because I've been struggling for way too long, trying to make this thing happen, not making any money. So let me get a coach. And it was from me getting a coach that everything exploded in my business. So for me, like, if one of the biggest things that I would say is definitely get a coach, so you don't have to go through the hardship. So that was 2 years, right? That's true, right? So that was 2 years, right? Right. So I actually did, and this is for you, Denise. I actually did a webinar last night. And I interviewed Vic, right? So Vic is one of our clients. So I interviewed Vic, and we kind of be going through it. And I was looking back through our private Facebook group, right? Our PCS group, and I saw that Vic got his first client within 2 months after him joining the PCS program, not knowing anything about coaching, right? Imagine going from, I don't even know the first place to start with coaching, to getting your first paying client. And I thought about it, and I was smiling while I was on a call, because it took me 2 years, but because he got the coaching, he got his first client in 2 months. That's the power of coaching. You can skip